You think you know things, right? Of course you do. But what if I asked you to prove it? I mean, really, truly prove something from the ground up. Could you? Well, today we're going to dive into a philosophical puzzle that kind of shakes the whole idea of certainty to its core. It's called Agrippa's Trilemma.
Okay, so let's start with something super simple. A question any kid would ask. Why is the sky blue? And you'd probably have a great answer, right? Something about, the atmosphere scattering sunlight. And hey, that's a perfectly good scientific answer.
But then comes that follow-up question, the one every parent dreads. But why is that true? How do you know the atmosphere scatters sunlight? And whatever you say next, but why is that true, all of a sudden you're trapped in this endless game of why, and you realize you can't actually win.
And look, this isn't just some annoying thing that kids do to drive us crazy. That little game actually points to a massive, deep philosophical problem. It's one of the biggest challenges in what's called epistemology, which is just the fancy term for the study of knowledge.
So here's the real issue, the heart of the problem. Every single time you try to justify a belief, to trace it all the way back to some solid, unshakable foundation, you hit a wall. Every single time. It turns out that proving anything with 100% certainty is, well, way, way harder than any of us think.
And this tricky problem actually has a name. It comes from an ancient Greek skeptic philosopher named Agrippa. And what he figured out is that any attempt to prove anything inevitably gets caught in this three-way trap. And the crazy part, none of the three paths out are satisfying at all.
So here it is, the trap itself. This is Agrippa's trilemma. The argument is that any attempt to prove something, anything, has to end in one of three logical dead ends. They're often called the three horns of the trilemma. So let's break down what these three horns actually are.
Okay, so horn number one is what we call infinite regress. It's basically the why game forever. Your proof needs a proof, which needs another proof, and on and on and on, you never hit solid ground. Horn number two is circular reasoning. This is when you say A is true because of B, and B is true because of A. See the problem? The argument just loops back on itself. It's floating in midair. And finally, horn number three is dogmatism. This is where you just stop. You hit a point and say, this is true just because it is. It's a self-evident truth that you don't even try to prove. There's a fantastic analogy for that circular reasoning problem. It's like the story of Baron Münchhausen trying to pull himself out of a swamp by pulling on his own hair. It sounds great, right? The system supports itself. But it's impossible. There's no external foundation. It's just a loop.
And here's the real kicker. That's it. Those are your only three options. There's no secret door number four. According to Agrippa, every single argument, every belief you've ever had has to end in one of those three ways. It either goes on forever, it loops back on itself, or it just stops at an unproven assumption.
So you might be thinking, okay, if the trap is inescapable, what's the point? Game over? Well, not exactly. Philosophers are a clever bunch. Instead of trying to find an escape hatch, the major schools of thought basically decided to lean into it. They each pick one of the three problems and try to argue that actually it's not a bug, it's a feature.
This chart lays it out perfectly. You've got the foundationalists. They look at dogmatism, that just because ending, and they embrace it. They say, yep, there are some basic foundational beliefs that don't need proof. Then you have the coherentists. They take circular reasoning and say, hey, maybe it's okay. They argue that beliefs are justified if they all fit together nicely in a coherent web. And then there's a much smaller camp, the infinitists, who look at that endless chain and go, you know what? Maybe an infinite chain of reasons isn't so bad after all.
And for foundationalism, you've definitely heard the most famous example. It's from René Descartes. I think, therefore I am. His whole point was that the very act of him doubting his own existence was proof that something, a thinking thing, had to exist to do the doubting. For him, this was it, the bedrock, a self-evident truth that needed no other proof.
Coherentists, on the other hand, they throw out the whole idea of a chain of proof. They say, think of it like a spider's web, not a chain. Any one strand of the web is weak, right? But the whole thing together is incredibly strong. For them, a belief is justified not because it sits on some solid foundation, but because it fits perfectly with all your other beliefs. It's the overall strength of the web that matters.
And then there's infinitism. Now, this one is definitely the underdog. Not many people subscribe to it. But they just bite the bullet. They look at that endless chain of whys and basically say, and what? What's the problem?
As long as you can always provide another reason when asked, they argue the system works just fine. You don't actually need to hit a final ultimate stopping point.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds super abstract, like something you'd only debate in a philosophy class. But trust me, this trilemma pops up all over the place, in really important, real-world situations. We're talking about everything from our legal system to how we do science.
Just think about it. Take the law. Why is the Constitution the supreme law of the land? Well, because of the authority of the people who ratified it. But what gave them authority? You keep going back, and eventually, you basically hit a foundational, because we all agreed it is. It's a dogmatic stop. Or how about science? The entire scientific method is built on assumptions, like the idea that the laws of physics are the same everywhere and will be the same tomorrow. Can you prove that scientifically? Not without using science, which is circular reasoning. And even in math, the most logical field we have, Kurt Gödel proved that any system powerful enough to do basic arithmetic will have true statements inside it that the system itself can't prove.
So, okay, if this thing is really unsolvable, what are we supposed to do with it? Just throw our hands up and say we can't know anything? No, not at all. The point of the trilemma isn't to make us all skeptics. It's actually an incredible tool, a tool for humility. Here's the big takeaway, the thing to remember. Every system of proof, every single one, ultimately rests on one of those three shaky legs. Whether it's science, religion, politics, you name it. It's either resting on an assumption, a circular argument, or an endless regress.
But again, this isn't a bad thing. It's not a reason to despair. It's a reason for intellectual humility. It's a reminder that even our most robust systems for knowing things, like science, are built on foundations they can't prove themselves. It should make all of us hold our own beliefs just a little bit more lightly, with a little less absolute, ironclad certainty.
So, I'm going to leave you with a little challenge. The next time you hear someone, a politician, an expert, a friend, or even yourself in the mirror, making a claim with total, 100% certainty, just pause for a second and ask yourself, what is that certainty really resting on? Is it a just because, an endless why, or a perfect circle? Go looking for the trilemma. I bet you'll start seeing it everywhere.